ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Jerusalem's Gates. We got some very important news that's brewing. First, we know that Iran is in the spotlight. We know that just a few days ago, our commander-in-chief stated that he was moments away from a strike against Iran, but in the last few moments decided not to. So now Iran is kind of stepping up the level a little bit, and the fact that they have going to surpass the uranium enrichment threshold minimum that was in the 2015 nuclear deal. So, you know, what we're seeing now with Iran is, this is my personal opinion. I think Iran is, you know, they shot down a drone. Be it that it was in international waters or in their waters is still yet to be decided. You know, each different party say different things, so we just leave it at that. And you have to realize that Iran knows that it's approaching election time. And that's the last thing that, it looks like the last thing that is across the U.S. Spectrum is that they do not want a war, another war in the East. So Iran is stepping up the level a little bit by surpassing that threshold of uranium enrichment. And President Trump, as you'll see in a video that's coming up next with from Al Jazeera, you'll hear our commander-in-chief saying that Iran is playing with fire, quote unquote, by increasing their uranium enrichment. Now, I've always said that I personally think Iran wants to counterbalance the powers with Israel, of Israel being the sole nuclear-powered country in the East. And Iran wants to counterbalance that powers. Now, we know that Iran has become more aggressive over the years in places like Syria and Yemen with different sponsorship in the wars there, and different involvement either directly or indirectly. So, you know, time will tell what will be the resolve of the president. I think the president is correct when he says we cannot let Iran get nuclear weapons. Now, you know, as time passes, more and more, it's just going to be a human fact, a reality. As decades pass, more and more countries will become nuclear-powered countries. If you don't believe me, just review the past many decades. More and more, as time passes, we'll get nuclear capabilities, nuclear weapon capabilities. So, you know, it's I've spoken many times about the Iran situation. You know, the reason I speak out is because Iran has said in parades and public demonstrations, you know, with their posters and parades and stuff like that, destroy down with Israel, destroy the Zionists, stuff like that. Well, it's very difficult to trust a country like that with nuclear weapons when they making such statements like that to their citizens, fueling the hatred there. So I truly believe that it'd be a grave mistake if we sit back and let Iran get nuclear weapons. I really do. Now, what way we go about to stop it? Hey, I'm not a politician, so I can't tell you. I'm just telling you my personal feelings about we have to stop at all costs Iran getting nuclear weapons. Again, I think Iran is testing a little bit the resolve of the president, knowing that it's approaching election time. So keep that in mind. And the whole world knows we're approaching election time. So it's no secret. Now, we got two videos I want to show you. One is from Al Jazeera, and it goes over the threshold, exceeding the threshold of the uranium enrichment. Now, there's no doubt that Iran economy is suffering from the sanctions. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And what kind of civil unrest will that cause? Will that strengthen the resolve of the Iranian people to fight against the sanctions? and hold even greater zeal for their country, time will tell. Time will tell. It can do either thing. It can backfire. It can actually create civil unrest. Again, time will tell. Now, and also, RT just came out with a video, and it will follow the Al Jazeera video, that just today, a dozen F-22 stealth fighters was sent to the Gulf area amid the Iran tensions. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, the video is going to shift from the Al Jazeera talking about the uranium enrichment threshold that's been exceeded, and it's going to switch to the RT video of actual seeing the F-22s taking off going towards the Gulf. So is that a preparation for something? Will our commander-in-chief do something like a strike, for instance, so close to election times or the beginning of election times? You know, the American people is very fickle. I mean, you have to admit, when it comes to election times, one moment the poll says one thing, one moment the polls say another thing. One moment the polls say this, and the elections come and it does something else. So it's you don't really know which way the average American voter is going to vote until he or she steps in that voting booth. So polls and all that are good, and for planning and strategic planning and stuff like that. But I wouldn't put all the eggs in one basket, as I said. But again, as I say in all my videos, thank you for tuning in to Jerusalem's Gate. We're a non-profit channel. If you would like to help us out, though, we greatly suggest that you subscribe and hit the notification bell for future notifications of the videos, because that's the only way you're going to get notifications of future videos. Not only to subscribe, but you have to hit the notification bell. Again, Jerusalem Gate is a non-profit Christian news and sermon network. So on with the videos. God bless you. We love you, and here we go.
Now, US President Donald Trump says Iran is playing with fire. That's after the UN's nuclear watchdog confirmed that Tehran is stockpiling more enriched uranium than allowed by the 2015 nuclear deal. Washington warned that it will never allow Iran to develop nuclear weapons and that it will continue its maximum pressure campaign until Tehran changes course. Here's what Trump told reporters at the White House.
No message to Iran. They know what they're doing. They know what they're playing with. And I think they're playing with fire. So no message to Iran whatsoever.
Well, earlier, Iran's foreign minister said Tehran does have the right to exceed the limit because the 2015 nuclear deal has not been upheld.
As I've been informed, Iran has exceeded the 300-kilogram limit of enriched uranium. We had previously announced this, and we were transparent in saying what we are going to do. We consider it our right reserved in a nuclear deal. Actions by the Europeans have not been enough, so we will move ahead with our plan. We are in a process of doing our first phase of action, increasing our stockpile of enriched uranium, as well as our heavy water reserves. We have already announced the second phase, which would be surpassing the uranium enrichment limit of 3.67%. This will be our next step.
John Hendren has more now from Washington, D.C.
President Donald Trump says Iran is playing with fire. That is after Iran announced that it is violating the 2015 nuclear agreement, the multinational agreement in which it set levels at which it could store stockpiles of uranium. Before that happened, the White House put out a statement saying, in part, maximum pressure on the Iranian regime will continue until its leaders alter their course of action. The regime must end its nuclear ambitions and its malign behavior. But responses have also been pouring in through the 280-character format of Twitter. From the administration, we have Secretary Mike Pompeo, the U.S. Secretary of State, saying the world's top sponsor of terrorism can never be allowed to enrich uranium at any level. John Bolton, the National Security Advisor for the U.S., says there is no reason for Iran to increase its enrichment unless it is part of an effort to reduce the breakout time to produce nuclear weapons. There have also been responses from the Democratic presidential candidates. Bernie Sanders says he's pushed us to the brink of war with Iran and kept us in the horrific Saudi-led war in Yemen. We need real diplomacy. Amy Klobuchar, a centrist candidate, says now Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than before Trump took office. This did not need to happen, and we should negotiate back into the agreement. That's the 2015 nuclear agreement the U.S. has bailed out of. And Joe Biden, the former vice president and leading candidate in the Democratic presidential race, says Trump's Iran policy has alienated us from our allies and taken us to the brink of another war in the Middle East. Everything this president does is backwards. This could end in a number of different ways, with an agreement possibly between the U.S. and Iran, with a military conflict like the one that only days ago President Trump said he was within 10 minutes of ordering, or we could have the kind of prolonged standoff that we have right now.